What's going on, everybody? Today I want to talk about combat rating and every way and best ways to get them as a free-to-play player. So we're going to completely negate legendary gems here, as well as giving you a comparison between my account and the average account that would start today and how much time investment is different, because a lot of you feel like you're the same Paragon level and you're so far behind, and a lot of that you attribute to paying, when in fact it's actually a lot of it's grinding as well. Really quickly, I just wanted to mention how we get combat rating. I went more in depth into this topic on combat rating in a previous video, but really briefly, just so you all get a quick gist, our legendary items can give us combat rating from the attributes themselves, as well as the upgrades you can apply to them. And then we have set items here over here, as well as yellows or magic items that you could equip on the left-hand side, which also do the same thing. Attributes which give you combat rating, as well as the upgrades here from your set items as well. The third way is going to be your Reliquary, but that isn't something that you can necessarily farm out on a daily basis because it is a bi-weekly reset. So the only thing we can really control are legendary items, set items, and the upgrades associated with them. Again, legendary gems are going to be completely omitted because they are pay to win 99% of the time. Now, the first topic I wanted to talk about is upgrading your gear. Now, this is something that a lot of people, if you've been playing since the beginning of the game, have zero problem with because you've accumulated so many resources. But for those of you that are starting the game recently, or maybe just haven't grinded a whole lot, you may be lacking out on scrap material, enchanted dust, and glowing shards, as well as enigmatic crystals for your left-hand side, but that's a little bit different, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. So really, you're going to be focusing on scrap materials, enchanted dust, and glowing shards. Now, the way you get these two are simply salvaging gear. The enchanted dust specifically only comes from yellow items, and glowing shards specifically only comes from legendary items when you salvage them. So when we go ahead and upgrade our gear, we're going to need quite a bit of them, especially if you are at the point where I'm at, where you need to go from 12 to 13. You need about 300 dust per one, 1.3k scrap, etc., etc. Now, there's a exchange vendor off to the side. Do not bother using this except for the enchanted dust exchange. Never swap in your enigmatic or your things for enigmatic crystals because they're so expensive to do so, and you get very little value. Now, when we want to farm salvage dust or the glowing shards, we're really going to have to open world farm, but overall you can get it from anywhere. But the best places to get dust as well as salvage materials are two areas, specifically the frozen tundra. This is going to have an event that gives you a bunch of gear at the end of it. So making sure you show up for that event during the time. Very good way to get salvage materials in there. Also, just open farming in general in frozen tundra is going to be very nice. And the second area is going to be the library. Now, the library is the all-time best to get enchanted dust. And the main reason for this is they have an event with the pages. When you run around the map, you can pick up the pages and then open a portal, and I can go and teleport over there to showcase it. When you're running around, you'll find these pages, and you'll be able to open portals once you collect enough of them. When you open the portals and you go into that event, you'll get a bunch of dust reward from completing that event. So as you farm around here, you'll find pages hidden around the map. I'm going to go ahead and check 2 spawns right here. There should be another one right here. Okay, well, there's not one currently, but you'll find them. They're glowing yellow pages on the bottom. And when you go ahead and get 5 of them, you can open a tome and actually access certain events that will give you a bunch of dust when you finish them off. Best way to get upgrade materials in terms of the salvage and the dust is going to be the library and the frozen tundra. Now, we need glowing shards, and this also kind of pairs with unlocking legendary items and overall just getting legendary items in general, because in order to get glowing shards, you need to salvage your legendary items. So we just need more legendary items. The best ways to do this are going to be open world farming and dungeon farming is going to be a very specific one, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and why I think it's one of the best ways to farm legendary items. But the best way to get strictly legendary items instead of just overall saving time is going to be Realm of Damnation. 2 farms here, the Hall of Punishment and the Plains of Torment. This will give you about 6 legendaries per hour, assuming you're not starting off your day, because starting off your day is going to give you a little bit of bonus legendaries there, but overall you'll get quite a few per hour. Now, if you want to go farm set items, which is the third portion of our combat rating, then you'll need to farm dungeons. And you can also get legendary items from them, which is why I say that one of the best ways is to farm legendary items in your dungeons, because if you need set items, now you get set items and you get legendary items, so it's kind of doubling up on farming. So best ways or best dungeons to do this with in order to get combat rating are going to be the boosted set dungeons for the week. This one today is going to be Forgotten Tower and Kukuris Rapids. You can see the double arrow above the set item boosted. This is going to be very, very important, and definitely recommend that you only farm the ones that are set boosted, and also kind of farm the ones that are easier. Now, the ones I would consider easier are going to be Forgotten Tower, the Kukuris Rapids, Mad King's Breach, as well as Temple of Namari and Tomb of Fahir. Destruction's End, Cavern of Echoes, and Pit of Anguish are going to be the harder dungeons or the longer dungeons, and the other ones are going to be the shorter ones, which allow you to get more set item drops. Very, very important that you do that. Now, if you farmed your set items, if you farmed your legendary items, you've gotten your rolls, you've gotten the combat rating, all that stuff, why are you stuck at certain combat rating breakpoints? So we've gotten all of our gear and stuff from all the things that I already mentioned. Now, why are we not able to enter Hell 3 or wherever you want to enter? This is because you have not invested enough time, because the game requires a lot of time for you to grind gear. Now, you can see I've removed all of my legendary gems from my gear, and I am currently at 2,623 combat rating. Now, this is because I have grinded so much more than the average player. I have triple stat. This is an exceptional piece, triple. So I have 4 triple stats and 2 exceptional pieces, which requires a lot of time. Not only that, but I have a triple stat in my glove. I have a regular piece in my waist, a triple stat in my boot, and an exceptional on my neck piece. Again, because I've invested so much time. Now, if we were to do the math here on someone that were to start today and get to server Paragon and compare it to myself, let's do the math really quickly. So if someone were to start today and farm the most efficient farm, they would have to farm for 23 hours in order to get to server Paragon, assuming about 2 times experience, which is honestly a little lower than you probably will get, because if you start today, you get about 500 experience bonus at Paragon 0, so you'll get flying through those levels really quickly. So you definitely want to go ahead and get those Paragon levels, and we'll go over a little bit more on that later. But right here, 23 hours, assuming we're farming the best farm, we're getting about 6 legendaries per hour, 137 legendaries total when we reach Paragon 94. Now, these 6 legendaries per hour is going to assume 0% magic find. A lot of people mention that, and that's an excuse. It's not true. 6 legendaries per hour. Again, if you farm for 2 hours and you get 4 legendaries, that's not enough time. You need to farm hundreds of hours like I have in order to get an average of 6 legendaries per hour, because some hours you'll get 13, some hours you'll get 0. It just depends on the hour that you're farming. 137 legendaries sounds like a lot. It's really not. If you compare it to myself, you could see I have played for 125 hours, assuming that we're doing the fastest experience method possible in order to get our according levels. And again, I have always been above server Paragon, except for day 1, because I got to Paragon 3 day 1. And that means I'm averaging about 40% experience, because sometimes I'm on 30%, sometimes I'm at 20, and sometimes I'm at 50, sometimes I'm at 60, about 40% average experience, which means I'm playing 125 hours, which is about more than 5 times the average player that starts today getting to server Paragon 94. That means that if I calculate the legendaries that I've actually farmed, I've farmed 751 legendaries. That is way more than the average player that starts today and were to grind as much as I have, or grind straight up to 94 in the hours that they showed. Now, a lot of people just kind of grind consistently at around 100% experience, so they farm significantly less than I have. Now, this isn't even including all the dungeon runs I've been on, because I've been on hundreds of dungeon runs, and that's way less experience. So I've run way more dungeons than everyone else, or the average player rather. And that also contributes to how many drops I've gotten. So now you can see I've got 5 times as many more legendaries as people, which means my gear is better. But that also means that I need to invest way more time into making my gear better than the average player. Again, this is where the difference you see is the gear is just so much better because of those triple stats, because of those exceptional, because I'm farming more, not because I'm paying more. If I was completely free to play, I'd be at this combat rating right here, which is way more than players oftentimes would say, because I've played more than them. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a way to pay to get higher difficulties. That is absolutely a way to do that. And if I were to equip my legendary gems, I'd have about 400 more combat rating. But that doesn't mean that you can't grind or that you don't have an option to grind a lot to reach those other hell difficulties. Now, is this investment reasonable for a lot of people? No, this is not a reasonable investment. This would take about 6 to 8 hours a day of grinding. Most people want to spend 1 to 3. And if you're spending 1 to 3, you'll have way less legendary items to choose from. And so that portion, you'll have to go ahead and just wait it out and farm your daily activities. Now, it is very important to keep up with the server Paragon, at least, because although you don't necessarily want to go past it because it'll be reducing your experience numbers by so much, so the amount of time you have to invest is way more, but all of your legendary gear is based on your Paragon level, your legendary attributes, as well as hell difficulty. So the higher hell difficulty you can get to, you're going to increase your base stats on your armor, and then also the Paragon level will determine your higher combat rating in order for you to access the higher difficulties. So as soon as you're able to farm Hell 1, go farm Hell 1, which is 60. As soon as you're able to farm Hell 2, which is about 1250 combat rating, if I remember correctly, we can check right here. Make sure you do that. As soon as you hit 60, start farming Hell 1, and then you can immediately go to Hell 2 as soon as you can, 1220 combat rating, and then move to Hell 3 as soon as you can, 2120 combat rating, and then so on and so forth to get the higher statted items. Very, very important that you do so. But again, it is purely amount of time investment when you're talking about free to play versus people telling me that it's impossible. That is just strictly not true. It's just a lot of effort, or will just take you many more days than the average grinder or the spender. About 400 combat rating, well, that's going to take you about 3 more weeks than the spender. 400 combat rating is going to take you a while to get those Paragon levels to increase your stats, get your triple stats. 400 combat rating is quite a bit, at least in terms of how much I've spent. But overall, it's absolutely doable. It just takes a lot of time. Hopefully that gives you some perspective on some grinding. A lot of you say that I'm missing out on the free-to-play perspective. I have a free-to-play account. The grinding of legendaries doesn't change whatsoever between the two accounts. The legendary gems does, and PvP does, but when you're talking about combat rating, it's strictly a matter of time investment in your gear. In order to get the combat rating that I have currently at 2600, you're going to have to invest a ton of time into your legendary items. There you go. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you for the next video.